YouTube, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. Sorry for the informal video today because I'm actually working on two different video projects, but they're not quite done yet and I need a little bit of time. But fortunately, we actually have a major topic to talk about, which is the Game Awards. So last year, I don't know how many of you actually were, watching my channel, but I did have a video about the Game Awards controversy last year with Sonic Superstars, actually Sonic Frontiers versus Genshin Impact. There was that whole Genshin Impact giving away free currency if you voted for them. But this year we actually have even bigger drama, and honestly, it's starting to the Game Awards credibility is starting to come into question here. So let's just explain everything that's happening. So first of all, the action adventure game, so we're just going to start with the actual awards themselves. Some of these are really redundant and don't really make sense. There's been a lot of conversation about the action adventure game and then the action game. What is the difference between the two other than you're just taking one award and cutting it in half so that you can add more awards? It really doesn't make sense. There's also been a lot of controversy as well around the Best Community Support Award. Obviously, this is becoming a big issue here because it's still trending on Twitter as we speak. But the two games that are at hand here is Cyberpunk and then obviously Destiny 2. So with Cyberpunk, people are talking about Best Community Support for this game and why it shouldn't get the award because this is technically not necessarily a live service game, and people are, I think this is also up for another award, Best Ongoing Game as well, and people are, slandering Cyberpunk for that matter because they don't feel it deserves that. And then Destiny 2, the big one here, this is super embarrassing in my opinion to put Destiny 2 for Best Community Support, and it's super tasteless because Destiny 2, Bungie, they fired their entire community team. This was very recently. It was a horrible look for them, and they let everybody go. And so the fact that this is getting awarded for Best Community Support, now obviously we don't know if it's going to win, but the fact that it's even nominated is pretty ridiculous. We also have a lot of controversy around, and this is probably the biggest one, the indie game. So Best Debut Indie Game and then Best Indie Game. So the indie game thing, and this right here, Community Notes on Twitter has officially posted a community note for this tweet. So Dave the Driver by Mint Rocket is one of the games up for nomination. This is not an indie game. This is a game that is funded by a giant, large corporation, Nexon. It even says, and this is from the president of, or vice president from the company, from the publisher, it may look like an indie game, but it is not necessarily so. So we are and this tweet has 1.7 million views and counting. We are very clearly aware that this is not an independent game, and yet it was still nominated for an independent game. What does this tell us? Well, it tells us a lot of things. Number one, Geoff Keighly obviously doesn't do a lot of fact-checking and, he doesn't do a lot of quality control when it comes to the Game Awards. He clearly doesn't. Last year, we had the vote botting from Genshin Impact and then obviously the currency thing. This year, we have the Mint Rocket game, Dave the Driver, being put up for Independent Game of the Year when it's very clearly not an independent game. Of course, there's also Octopath Traveler 2 that could have, taken an award spot for Best RPG, but it didn't, to Final Fantasy 16, which a lot of people don't think Final Fantasy 16 is an RPG, and I agree with them. There is a lot of quality control here that has to be done that Geoff Keighly very clearly hasn't done. And then on top of that, you're straight up like giving these people who are voters, right? So what Geoff Keighly does is he takes like 130 of the media journalists around the industry and he puts them together in a pool and they get to vote on this stuff for the nominations. These people, these 130 media critics, they cover video games for a living. This is what they do. This is how they make their bread, right? And they eat food every night. They could not tell you that Dave the Driver was not an indie game. They couldn't tell you that. They couldn't tell you that, oh, hey, Destiny 2 just fired their entire community team. All of it. Their entire community support team, they just got laid off. And they still nominated that game. I don't know who these 130 voters are and who, I don't know who they are. I don't think it's, to be honest with you, I don't even want to know who they are because that would open up a whole other can of worms of, people attacking them. But there has to be a change here for this to be taken seriously. The Game Awards is something that I've never really taken too seriously. Last year I took it a bit more seriously because I was rooting for Sonic Frontiers to win something, but it didn't win anything. Didn't even win Best OST, which was insane. But this is the tweet that I want to highlight. This is from Geoff Keighly. So he says, saw some initial numbers. Yesterday we had a 73% year-over-year increase in voter users for the Game Awards on day one for the website. This is what Geoff Keighly cares about the most, right here. All of the controversy that's happening, every bit of it, it doesn't really matter because look at the initial numbers. It grew a lot, 73% growth in terms of voting, which is a huge thing. And so Geoff Keighly truly doesn't care about the quality control, it would seem. It's just, all that matters is that people are talking about the Game Awards. You know, I can go on too, like Halo Infinite, which has had a significant turnaround and so much overhaul, making the game so well. In fact, just today, Halo Infinite has the Mountain Dew refueled Halo 3 throwback playlist right here. It's available today. I can't wait to jump in today as well. This is out today. This is a major update for the game after Season 5's already been really good. And this game didn't get nominated for Best Continuing or Ongoing Game at all. There's also the other side of this controversy as well. So we talked a little bit of obviously just now about how the Game Awards quality control is not great, but now we also should talk about the Xbox situation. So Xbox, you know, this was, I kind of knew this was going to be a big thing for Microsoft, at least in terms of like, you know, Twitter and discourse, because the Starfield release date and the Starfield like entire just lead up to it was very toxic. You had a lot of people, you know, throwing rocks at the game, and it was just insufferable, the amount of you know, hate and just discourse towards each other about Starfield. So I figured if this game didn't get nominated for Game of the Year, it would be a really big issue, and it has. So Xbox yesterday was trending. Starfield yesterday was trending. The thing that was trending was Xbox tax, and people are basically saying that any Microsoft game that is owned by Microsoft gets taxed for being a Microsoft game. So even though Hi-Fi Rush is a great game, since it's a Microsoft game, you got to tax it and deduct it a little bit. That's basically what people on Twitter were saying. Also, people were upset that Starfield only has one nomination throughout this entire Game of the Year awards list. Meanwhile, a remake like Resident 4 is actually on the Game of the Year list. Now, I will say this. I am not sure, you know, because obviously it's subjective. I personally, you know, I've played Starfield. I have a lot of hours in Starfield. I beat the game. I'm already in New Game Plus. I can show you right here. I have 3 days, 14 hours, 36 minutes in Starfield. I'm still, you know, working my way through and stuff. I love Starfield. It is definitely one of my favorite Xbox games to come out, period. And it's definitely, in my opinion, one of the games of the year. Like, I would have put it on the nomination. I don't know if it wins, but it's definitely up there, right? However, I will say this. Even if it wasn't Starfield, the fact that a remake like Resident Evil 4, a game that released in 2005, is on a list this year is pretty ridiculous. This is a remake of a 2005 game. I understand the remake is really good, so was Dead Space's remake, but it's still a remake. You know, you would think in a year with so many new original IP, Starfield, Hi-Fi Rush, Hogwarts Legacy, or so many big sequels like Jedi Survivor, you would think one of those games would be more worthy than a remake. And honestly, I'm starting to think Geoff Keighly, if he did care about quality control, which he clearly doesn't, maybe he should just make a best remake category, because look at it. We're getting Super Mario RPG this week. We already had Resident Evil and Dead Space this year. Next year, we're getting Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, and I'm sure there's going to be much more remakes. PlayStation's always remaking. I'm sure they'll do a Miles Morales remake or a Last of Us 2 remake. You know how PlayStation is, right? So they should just have a category for remakes, because I really truly think, look at all these games. Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. There is not one single new original game on this list, which is insane to me because there were so many new original games that came out this year. So I really have a problem with that. And then also, I forgot to mention this earlier too when I was talking about quality control as well. So if we go back to the best independent game, by the way, Baldur's Gate 3 is an independent game. Like, Larian Studios is an independent studio. and this is not on the list. It's pretty insane. I don't know how Baldur's Gate 3, I mean, maybe they just felt like we didn't want to, give Baldur's Gate 3 a sweep and too many awards, but it technically is an independent game, so it should definitely be in here. My personal route for this list, of course, I have to pick Sea of Stars because I think it is honestly one of the best RPGs that I've played. It's just truly a fantastic game. I'm still going through it, but I love Sea of Stars a lot. But I think Geoff Keighly really needs to work on the quality control for this because this is very, very ridiculous in my opinion. I really don't understand what qualifies for what. Like Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Best multiplayer game, I can't believe that Super Mario Bros. Wonder is on this list. It's not really a multiplayer game. You can play co-op, and I think there's an online multiplayer component to it. I haven't tried it. I know that I've played through the game and I've played through the stages. But even if there is a small online multiplayer component, is it really a best multiplayer of the year candidate, really, over some of the games that we've had? I mean, I just don't understand, what the criteria is, and I don't think the Game Awards understands what the criteria is as well. This one is the sole nomination, Best RPG. This is the sole nomination that Starfield got, but the controversy with this is that Octopath Traveler 2 is not here and Final Fantasy 16 is. And if you look at these tweets, they have 500k views, 1 million views. This is truly a massive event. Like, the Game Awards has become a marquee event in the gaming industry. There's no doubt about it. And if you just scroll through a lot of the comment, like, look at this. You forgot to nominate the winner, and obviously Octopath Traveler 2. No Octopath Traveler 2, no Armored Core 6. That's another game that could have gotten nominated. There is a lot of our quality control issues here. But like I said, Geoff Keighly does not care. He obviously cares about the viewership, which I don't blame him for because you need viewership to grow this. But it is a bad look, and I think it does, there is a lot of credibility to be lost with this because you literally got community noted. That's how, you are hosting the Game Awards. You are the person running the show. You've had experience running E3. You've had experience running Gamescom and stuff. You are running the show, and look at this. This is Deadline Hollywood. Deadline Hollywood. This is a major outlet that covers all of the latest and greatest in Hollywood, and obviously they're dipping their toe into the video game industry because of all the movies that are going to Hollywood. They are covering the Game Awards, and yet you can't have the at least decency to quality control what the Game Awards actually is. It's really bad. So I just wanted to talk about that and give my thoughts on it. Me personally, my game of the year is wildly different from everybody else's game of the year. My game of the year is a tie. It is Hi-Fi Rush and Sonic Superstars. Those are the two games that I've enjoyed the most this year. But to be fair, I haven't even been able to play all of these games because there's so many that have come out. I think the next game that I want to play is actually on Game Pass, which is Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name. I'm really looking forward to diving into this game right now. I'm going to download it and play it very soon. But I truly believe that Geoff Keighly needs to do a lot of quality control here, and we'll see how this all shakes out. But between it's trending, Mario Wonder's trending. Between all of the controversies, you have the independent thing, you have the RPG thing with no Octopath Traveler, the Xbox tax thing. I mean, it is truly insane. So we will see what actually happens with the Game Awards when the nominations are, when we see who wins. I'm predicting a Baldur's Gate sweep along with maybe Tears of the Kingdom getting a couple awards, but we'll see how it is. But thank you guys for tuning in here, and let me know what your thoughts is on the Game Award. I'm really interested to see where other people are viewing this from. Do you care? Do you not care? Is this a big deal? Is this not a big deal? Obviously, the grand scope of things, it's not the biggest deal ever, but there's a lot of discourse, and people can pretend to downplay it, but if it's trending on Twitter during Monday Night Football, right? It's a pretty big deal. It's hard to trend on Twitter when WWE, Monday Night Raw, and Monday Night Football are also going on at the same time. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think about the Game Awards and what is your game of the year. Thank you guys for tuning in. I have 2 videos that I'm working on right now that are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks, so can't wait to release those to you guys. But thank you for checking out the video. Hope to see you guys in the next one, but until then, peace.